Remember the Titans, players to watch in week 1. Today's episode, we're going to tell you what to watch for in the AFC teams week 1, things that are going to impact your fantasy team, which players are going to emerge behind the studs on their offenses. This is going to be key for your waiver wire pickups after week 1. So make sure you tune into this episode. Before we do, I want to make sure you follow us across the board at Razzball Fantasy on YouTube, IG, and TikTok. We are dropping daily content on there all season long. And of course, we're going to be doing our Sunday live start sit show starting at 7 a.m. PST every single Sunday. So make sure you're jumping onto the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel and you're checking out that Sunday live. We get all your start sit questions answered right live on air. So make sure you're jumping on and subscribing to Razzball Fantasy. And of course, make sure you're going to razzball.com, folks. We have great articles and content. We have a bunch of tools and resources that you're going to need to win your fantasy league all season long. So make sure you're jumping over to razzball.com. And guess what? Sports, baseball, basketball, and hockey. So we have it all at razzball.com. All right, folks, let's start the show. All right, folks, we're going to bring in my first guest today. His name is Donkey Teeth. You can follow me at Donkey Teeth 87. What's going on, DT?
Hey, what's happening, Bobby? It's like Christmas Eve here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're on the verge of season starting. I mean, at this point at razzball.com, we've been in season mode for the last, 2 months. But at the same time, before we even get into the show, DT, let's talk Thursday Night Football. What's the first thing you're excited to watch for in the Rams-Bills game?
I suppose I'm most excited to see the Rams follow up Stafford, your guy Allen Robinson, see how that offense is clicking out of the gates. And then, I guess the big story for me in that game is going to be Cam Akers, how he looks.
All right, let's jump down, bring in my next host for today. It's going to be Keelin Billue. You can follow Keelin on Twitter at Keelin_12foot. What's going on, Keelin?
What's up, Bobby?
To get you warmed up for the show, I just asked DT what he's looking forward to the first game of the year, Bills, Rams. Anything standing out to you for those games?
I'm more interested probably in what's going to happen with the Falcons and the Saints coming up. So,
okay,
a little different.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just skip over that topic then. All right, let's get into today's show today. We're going to be talking about essentially what to watch for in the AFC game. So essentially the AFC teams, we want to talk today about what to watch for. A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is going to impact waiver wires most likely in week 1. We have a lot of situations to cover today, so let's get right into it. DT, I'm going to kick it over to you first to talk about the new look Dolphins offense. What do you want people to watch out for in week 1?
Well, Bobby, we've been talking about this all preseason. I'm super excited about Tua this year, and I feel like every preseason there's one offense that I get like irrationally excited about, and it's the Dolphins this year. I really like Jalen Waddle. I think the thing that I'm going to be watching most closely is that how I would say? Yeah, most closest. I'm going to be watching closest. I'm not a grammar expert here, guys. I'm fantasy football. Jalen Waddle versus Tyreek Hill. How these targets shake out. How often Tua is looking towards Waddle versus Tyreek. Tyreek has had a great preseason. I was a little bit nervous about him coming in. You and I talked about that when we went through wide receiver rankings. So it's been a pleasant surprise that he's had such a strong preseason. I thought he might be a little bit shaky, but now game action's coming. I want to see how those targets shake out. If Tua leans a little bit more on the guy that he's more familiar with in Waddle, because that was kind of my expectation coming in. Could be totally wrong. And then the running back situation too, Chase Edmonds, I've always had a thing for Raheem Mostert. So I think that there could be a little bit more split than Chase Edmonds owners are hoping for here. So just in general, I'm excited about this Dolphins offense. Let's see what it's all about.
I know they got a lot going on, right? New offensive coordinator, new head coach, new everything over there in Miami. Let's jump down to the next one, Keelin, talk a little bit about who essentially is going to emerge behind, with A.J. Brown now gone. So what is your thoughts about the Tennessee Titans and what to look out for week 1?
Yeah, so super interested in this game, one, because of my own personal fandom, but also just because this is kind of a wide receiver rebuild for the Titans right now. They drafted Treylon Burks, who got to play a little in the preseason and did pretty well. And then They have Nick Westbrook-Akine kind of coming back there. But then it's Cody Hollister and Racey McMath, who've also been around, but haven't really, been the biggest names. So in that regard, Ryan Tannehill kind of relied on all the wide receivers a little more last year, but that changes a little this year with the rebuild. And then also with AJ Brown now gone. However, it's kind of a let's try it again season with Derrick Henry, who, as everybody knows, broke his foot last year, only played 8 games, and then still ended up as RB14 despite having only played those 8 games. So yeah, he is ADP overall number 4 this year, which I know a lot of people, it's kind of like a mixed bag on how people feel. I understand. I drafted him for a dynasty league last year and it kind of ruined my year. And he's turning 29 coming off that broken foot. So I'm definitely going to be watching him. And also Ryan Tannehill coming out of, preseason, having watched Malik Willis play amazingly. It's just going to be very interesting to see how both of them perform kind of as, they're leaders on the team and they're entering kind of their years where it's kind of like, what's going to happen next with them? So I think this will be definitely a very make it or break it season for both of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I got my eye on Austin Hooper too, the tight end. That the offense utilizes the tight end. So I definitely have my eye on them too. Any thoughts about Hooper?
Yeah, I'm excited about him as well. I actually tried to pick him up in a friends draft and I got sniped. So very excited about that. And that, Tannehill will have a few targets despite AJ Brown being gone.
All right. I'm going to jump down to mine is actually who's going to emerge in the Indianapolis passing game behind Michael Pittman. Now, Matt Ryan comes in and brings a very competent style quarterback play. I mean, this is something I get a late career Tom Brady stuff. I know Matt Ryan's not Tom Brady, but a lot of people started to say, well, Matt Ryan's done, similar to what they were saying about Brady. I think the problem was that as soon as Calvin Ridley got suspended, he was dealing with a rookie tight end, which I know Kyle Pitts is a stud, but he's still a rookie tight end, and Russell Gage is his number 1. Over the last few years, the Atlanta Falcons offense has deteriorated. Julio Jones left. Calvin Ridley couldn't stay on the field. And I think now he goes into this Indianapolis situation with a very solid head coach. He's got a very competent number 1, but he's also got a bunch of interesting talent. He got Mo Alley-Cox, who's like 7'12". I don't even think that's a thing, but he's huge man at tight end who's flashed sometimes. You have Paris Campbell, a former second-round pick, Alex Pierce, a second-round pick this year. I'm interested. I do think Matt Ryan's going to be able to produce multiple fantasy assets this season. The question is, who's it going to be? I think a lot of these guys, like especially Campbell and Mo Alley-Cox, will be found on waivers, and even Pierce to a certain extent in shallow leagues. So I do think after week 1, we might see who that targeting pecking order is after a guy like Michael Pittman. So I'll keep my eye out on the Indianapolis Colts pass game. Let's jump into the next one for you, DT. And of course, all aboard the hype train, Dameon Pierce. I think you're questioning, is it real? We're going to find out in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's real, but a lot of people are questioning it. Yeah. There was one particular person out on Twitter pointing out that every 4th round, I think they posted every single 4th round running back since 2012, and they were using it as kind of support for selling Dameon Pierce in dynasty leagues. If you can get a 1st rounder next year or even a 2024 1st rounder. B-Don and I on our fantasy football podcast, we had this debate a lot, and I've always been of the mindset that 95% of NFL running backs, if you put them in the right situation with the right opportunity, getting that workload, they're going to be successful. Now, I don't know if the Houston is the right situation for any running back, but the workload is going to be there. And we saw it with James Robinson a couple of years ago, an undrafted guy coming in. He had the opportunity and he took advantage of it. Austin Eckler was undrafted. These guys can come out of nowhere and be given opportunity and take advantage. So I hope that Dameon Pierce is, hearing some of these doubters and coming out there with a chip on his shoulder, because I've seen stuff questioning his actual ability and athleticism as a 4th rounder and all of that. And I think that, anybody that's getting drafted at the running back position in the NFL, okay, maybe they're not a freak talent like Adrian Peterson or something like that, but this guy, they're all specimen, and you put them into the right situation, they're going to be successful. He's going to have the workload here out of the gates. Hopefully, that's my expectation. I think that he's still being undervalued in the 5th round where he's going in some drafts, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is they released Marlon Mack and they put him now on the official week 1 depth chart. He's number 1. So that says something. Absolutely. So I do like this call on Pierce. Let's jump down to the next one for you, Keelin. It's basically that Steelers offense. What's the expect from Mitch Trubisky? So what's your thoughts? What are you looking for in Pittsburgh week 1?
Yeah, so I like when we were talking about what topics we were going to choose, Donkey Teeth. Although it was through text, I feel like I could audibly hear him scream when I mentioned Mitch Trubisky, which was great. However, I do think just in general, the whole quarterback situation for the Steelers, it's been interesting coming up, but it got really interesting through preseason. So yeah, it came out that Mitch Trubisky has been named the starting quarterback for the Steelers. Despite having, kind of 2 rough years the past years, and arguably at the Bears, some rough years. So that was not really necessarily surprising, but the Steelers did release a depth chart, which showed Mason Rudolph initially as the backup quarterback, followed by Kenny Pickett as the QB3. So that kind of confused people, but then it came out that this was kind of a Control-C error, and it has been updated now. So, so now it is reflected that Kenny Pickett is going to be the backup. But during the training camp, it was Trubisky and Kenny Pickett ended up doing kind of a lot of running. So I'm interested to see kind of, I hate to be morbid, but to see how far down the depth chart they actually do have to go. Mike Tomlin said that they ended up going with Trubisky because of how he performed in camp and just because he does have experience as a franchise quarterback. And, just that experience is helpful in the beginning. However, if they are doing this running, we'll see how that goes, who will get injured, who will end up going in. So yeah, I'm interested to see how Trubisky does coming off of a few rough years, being new to this team. And then, hopefully we'll get to see Kenny Pickett some and see how he does. And maybe he'll have kind of a hometown or college town success story on his side.
As our local Bears fan, DT, any thoughts about Mitch Trubisky before I hop into the next topic?
No, I think there was a little miscommunication on our text chain because I actually am a fan of the Steelers offense.
Okay.
Keelin said LOL, like they're going to be a laughing stock. That was what I heard there. So I'm actually, I have a little bit of Mitch Trubisky trauma, sure, but I blame that on the Bears, and I think that he needed to get out of there, and I think that he's going to have more success in Pittsburgh. Bobby and I, we talked about this quite a bit, and I'm a huge fan of George Pickens, so let's go.
Do you think this might be like a Stafford-esque situation? Maybe.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
All right, fair.
That's bold.
You never know. I agree, but you never know.
All right,
I think have that return.
I'm a little bit concerned about Najee Harris. I'll say it. And I heard Bobby, you and Paul Blake talking about this on maybe your last show. But anytime I hear Liz Frank, I'm running for the hills. So I was super high on Najee. Now I'm scared.
Yeah, I think the other thing that, I agree with that. It's staying away from those foot injuries is key. But the other thing I will say about Mitch that makes him an intriguing fantasy asset is not only the weaponry around him, man. He's got 3 stud receivers, Pat Freiermuth, even Harris, even 80% of Harris is better than most backs. But he can run, which is very intriguing if Matt Canada allows him to run the football. So he could be an underrated 2 QB quarterback this season. Jumping down to my last one, is Trevor Lawrence a generational talent? This kid was like the unheralded. His first year at Clemson, goes off, wins national titles, does all this stuff. Was supposed to be like the next coming, essentially the next Andrew Luck, who came into the league hot, and then he gets Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's dancing on girls in Cleveland or wherever the hell he was in the middle of this most bizarre situation I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be this generational talent. Now, Doug Peterson comes in, gives you that steady hand. There's a lot of expectation that this offense is going to look a lot better. The question comes now that you have a steady hand at the head coaching and play caller position, now it's time to see if he's actually a talent elevator. Because my first thought is Christian Kirk was an underrated fantasy asset this season. Marvin Jones and Zay Jones are not even being drafted in most leagues. Evan Ingram is on waiver wires. What if Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent and this offense explodes? There is plenty of week 2 waiver wire guys, including the Joneses and also Evan Ingram, that you could probably snag on the waiver wire, especially if Lawrence takes that huge leap heading into 2022. So I'm actually going to be watching to see how good he plays this week. Now, Keelin, I gave DT an opportunity to talk a little bit about one of your Steelers picks. Is there any topics you kind of heard today or any other topics you want to cover before we close the show?
I can't believe you gave me shit about saying Mitch Trubisky and Matthew Stafford or comparison when you're picking Trevor Lawrence over here as a generational talent.
I had a question mark at the end of that statement. All right, so technically, I'm still questioning it too. So
there's so much happening this season that I'm just, in general, feel like I'm just watching. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very interesting season in general because of all of these huge switches. And I mean, questions like that. It is one of those things. There's so many things. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's hard.
Yeah.
So. But no, I don't really have anything. I just, it's exciting though.
No, I know, right? It's a lot of moving parts too this year. Yeah. I think there's a lot because of all the QB changes, right? A lot of big trades, a lot of teams going to good teams is awesome too. But any final thoughts from you, DT, on any topics, anything else you want to bring up?
Well, I like your Trevor Lawrence Jaguars offense highlight. You know, if I didn't have the Dolphins, I think the Jaguars would probably be that offense for me. I am a big Trevor Lawrence fan, and ETN is somebody to watch in week one. Obviously, it sounds like James Robinson is going to play, so that will be a very intriguing situation to monitor. And then I think we talked about this on a previous show, how much they paid Christian Kirk. Is he going to be like legit WR2? He could be a high-end WR2 in fantasy if Lawrence develops and he really keys in on Christian Kirk. Yeah, I always wonder in these kind of situations, guys, if like they go to Trevor Lawrence and they say, what do you think of Christian Kirk? And he's like, that's my guy. Let's pay him whatever the hell he wants. You know, did something like that happen? I don't know. But I always wonder about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how. I mean, it would be one thing if they played together in college. But at the same time, you're right. They did go out and made him a priority, which does say something. So I do agree. That's another one. But the James Robinson one is key, too. Coming off the Achilles, he's already ready, but is it going to be like a Cam Akers situation where he's averaging like 3 yards a carry and it's just he's getting 10 carries a game to keep the ETN fresh? I don't know, but that's a good tidbit there, DT. All right, that's all we got for today, folks. Once again, this is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Make sure you're checking out all of us on IG, TikTok, and we're also on, of course, YouTube as well. But make sure you go to razzball.com. We have a bunch of great content coming all season long. We're going to have brand new stats and data that you need to help to win your fantasy league. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby LaMarco. I want to thank both my co-hosts today, Donkey Teeth. You can follow him at DonkeyTeeth87, and Keelin. You can follow her at Keelin_12foot. We're out of here, folks. That was a